right, once again, welcome back to Panzer Unleashed. And if you're just tuning in, this isn't a podcast. It's a digital bunker. It's my personal war room, as well as yours. And this is a place where the cowards don't get to fucking speak. And the traitors out there, they don't get a pass. And we don't whisper here. We broadcast. And today, we pull back the rotted curtain on a war that's been raging right in front of your face. And that's the war on whistleblowers, my friends. And you ever wonder why sometimes when someone exposes a lie publicly, they end up disappearing, or you never hear from them again? And you ever notice how these truth tellers, they don't get medals out there, they get fucking manhunts? Well, welcome to the front line. You know, we're going to go ahead and talk some names, systems, methods, and most importantly, how you become a weapon against this machine. So get your fucking mind right, lock in. This isn't safe, and this isn't polite, but truth really, it rarely is, people. So, you know, we have to start with the fact. You know, truth is supposed to fucking protect us. And we were told growing up that the truth is right. That to tell the truth is to be brave. And that we should expose wrongdoings. But that's a trap. That was propaganda fed to us by the very system that can't survive the light. Because the second you live by that creed in the real world, people, the second you fucking point your finger at a dirty badge or a fucking crooked politician or some cartel puppet in a suit, you're fucking marked. You're not praised, but you're ready for elimination. And let's go ahead and rip into that, because these whistleblowers don't just reveal wrongdoing. You know, they expose networks, patterns, and these symptoms of clusters of rot that run deep. And when they do, watch how fast the fucking hammer drops. And you ever wonder how a guy like Edward Snowden can just expose a global surveillance operation and become a fucking fugitive overnight? Or how that, what's his name, Julian Assange can fucking basically reveal all those war crimes and spend a decade in a cell without any trial. You know, it's not just retaliation. It's a ritual. You know, it's meant to send a message. And that message is pretty simple. If you speak, we destroy you. And who delivers that message? Corporate intelligence firms, rogue law enforcement, federal agencies with no oversight, and sometimes your own damn co-workers. And this is a machine built on silence. And when you break that silence, they fucking try to break you. And let me take you to Arizona, where I'm from. The good old Phoenix Police Department. A department that's riddled with internal corruption. And you got moles embedded in narcotics divisions, cops selling intel back to the very fucking cartel they're supposed to be dismantling. And when someone's inside tries to blow the whistle, they don't get promoted. They don't get protected either. They get fucking hunted. You fucking hear that, people? Hunted. I'm not talking hypotheticals. I'm not pulling from fiction. And I'm talking about Officer Jones. That so-called undercover who wasn't working to bring down traffickers. He was tipping them off. And when I started sniffing around, you know, when I started connecting the dots, naming the names, telling you the truth. Like I said, you know, the green light shines even brighter, if you get my drift. And a real one. You know, and that's not paranoia. It's not internet tough guy fucking theatrics. You know, this is real bullets, people. Real threats and real consequences. All right, let's go ahead and get into this week's Signal Boost. And this one's for the real ones out there, online and on the ground. Once again, this is Panzer Unleashed, not your feel-good, fluffy show, not your algorithm-polished, corporate-approved, ad-friendly operation. This is war journalism. This is truth with a kill switch. And this is signal flaring across enemy territory. And right now, we're going to go ahead and fire this shout-out across to every fucking front line where you hold it down. And first off, to everyone tuned in on the platforms, they can't kill off, like Odyssey. We got the big thumbs up on YouTube to get back there. We're currently on Spotify, Goyam TV, Podbean. And once again, you guys have all stayed in this fight. You didn't fold when the truth became dangerous. And you've been sharing these drops, when it could have cost you your job, your account, even your reputation. That's real resistance, and that's warrior class mentality. But let's go ahead and take it a little bit further, people. To every digital insurgent out there on Gab, you've turned a social platform into an intel grid. And you share the hard content, the banned links, the names they don't want spoken, and it's appreciated. I love seeing that. And you are the signal boosters in a fog of disinformation. And to the Gab groups out there, the ones who allow this broadcast to be shared in your circles, the ones who hold the door open for the truth to walk in and detonate, I salute you. And you're doing more than moderating people. You're building resistance networks. And to all the Telegram warriors out there, Uncle Bob's group, once again, thank you guys. The Ghost Cell networks, the Untraceables, your posts, your reposts, your redrops, and distributing the heat to the channels that never sleep. It's appreciated. And you guys, all of you, you've turned group chats into digital drop zones. And this movement couldn't move without you. You're the ones making sure the truth can't be buried. And every time you forward an episode, every time you drop Panzer into a 1,000-member chat, every time you screen record or repost or remaster and remix this, you become the media. Now, let's go ahead and pivot this a little bit to this signal boost, because while this show does expose corruption, it doesn't forget the good men and women behind the badge who still remember what the badge is supposed to mean. This is for the cops who never took that payoff, never turned their backs, and never looked the other way. You don't cuff whistleblowers, you cover them. You don't protect cartels, you raid their fucking houses. And you wear that uniform like it's armor, not it's a fucking disguise like most of them do. And you don't just follow orders, you follow justice. And we see you putting heat on those pedophile rings, ripping through the fucking fentanyl on the streets, and we love that. We see you arresting fellow officers when the lines get crossed, and that means everything. And you go into those cartel-infested corridors knowing they greenlit your head, and you still push forward. That's not just courage, that's warrior honor. And you don't serve the department, you serve the fucking people. And even when your own precinct turns cold, you don't bend, you don't break, you burn hotter, my friend. And this is explosive justice, and you're carrying that debt cord. And so to the good cops out there, the constitutionalists in uniform, the detectives that go against that blue wall when it turns black, we salute you. And to everybody out there listening, watching, resharing, and hosting, commenting, amplifying, reposting, and standing with us across this digital battlefield, from Gab to Goyam TV to Telegram to Podbean to Spotify to Odyssey, from the streets of the fucking Phoenix to the fucking chats of the Patriots Network, you are the reason this message still gets out. And you are the counter narrative. So hold that line and sharpen your mind. Back the good and hunt the corrupt. and broadcast truth like a motherfucking nuke. And you're not just viewers to me. You're a part of this fucking Panzer war machine. So make sure to stay armored and stay sharp and stay loud, my friends. And this is what happens when you expose the game. And the system doesn't need to kill you. Not right away, anyway. But it's more elegant than that. More insidious. Because first, they discredit you. And they'll label you unstable, say you're disgruntled, call you a conspiracy theorist, an extremist, or mentally ill, and they will smear your fucking name. And next, they will try to isolate you. You know, coworkers back away, friends disappear, your family starts asking if you're okay, and finally, they destroy you. Financially, legally, and physically if they have to. You know, they'll audit your life, get your banks shut down, flag you on the terrorist watch, and ruin your job prospects, and leak your addresses, and basically turn you into a cautionary tale. It's death by 1,000 cuts, my friend. A slow motion execution with plausible deniability. And you think the press is on your side? They are not. These mainstream media are fucking owned and operated and controlled. Every major network has that financial tie to these defense contractors, pharmaceutical giants, or fucking these intelligence agencies. So when a whistleblower emerges, the headlines don't say, "Hero exposes corruption." They say, "Disgruntled employee makes unfound claims." You know, the language is surgical, people. Designed to minimize your legitimacy and to seed doubt in the minds of the public. And if the story's too dangerous, they're not going to fucking report it at all. Trust me, I've literally went to every single newscast out here in Tucson. And, you know, it's just the same stone wall. You know, it's easier than risking their access, you know, their silence. You know, you think CNN or Fox will run a fucking story about DEA agents working with cartels? You think the fucking New York Times is going to spotlight city officials laundering cartel money? I fucking doubt it. Only if it's safe, right? Only if it serves their side. Only if it doesn't threaten their masters, you know? So you're left to bleed in the shadows, you know, while this machine spins their narrative. And let me speak as someone living this. You don't get a happy ending. You don't get a book deal. You don't get closure. And what you get is constant alertness. You get that fear tingle and a brain that never rests and a phone that's always watched. You know, and a friend who might be a trap. And you live looking over your shoulder and your head on a swivel. And every time you close your eyes, you wonder if you made a mistake. But you didn't. They did. And the fact that they fear you, the fact that your fucking words make powerful men lose their fucking shit, that's how you know you're on target, my friends. All right. Once again, before we continue, let's go ahead and get into this week's Intel briefing. Up first, we have FBI supervisor misconduct. A supervisor at the FBI reportedly paid prostitutes, even overseas, and used a government device to pay for those transactions of prostitution. He also failed to report foreign contacts. No charges were filed, just internal discipline. And, you know, when abuse happens inside the FBI, people, it's swept under, you know, creating vulnerabilities for blackmail. Up next, we have an Alabama teen shooting. It says an 18-year-old named Jabari Peoples was shot during a minor marijuana arrest in Hollywood, Alabama. Police say he was reaching for a gun. It says family and witnesses say he was unarmed and shot in the back. It says body cam footage is still withheld, citing a law that blocks immediate release. See, you control the footage equals control the truth. So we got Windsor, Connecticut. Friendly fire incident. Says Officer Brandon Thomas fired his service pistol at a fleeing suspect, claiming he thought it was his taser. No injuries, but he's charged with reckless endangerment and unlawful discharge. An investigator says the act was unjustified, not a high-stress mistake. You know, accidents get criminalized, even without harm. You know, training failures matter, people. Here we go. Police chief arrested for drunkenness. Slisby, Texas. Police chief Sean Blackwell was arrested for public intoxication. He posted his $500 bail and continues his job. You know, the city council is holding a special session to evaluate his role. You know, abuse of the badge isn't always violent. Sometimes it's just disgraceful. Here we go in Chicago over police brutality. It says 6 men were just freed after serving a combined of 124 years for a 1987 murder. It says their convictions were based on a coerced confession obtained through psychological and physical abuse by detectives. Says Chicago has already paid nearly $100 million and could possibly pay $2 billion more just in legal fallout. See, when torture is routine, then trust is broken. Up next, we got right here in Memphis. Says Nicholas beating case. Says 3 ex-officers were acquitted in the Tyree Nichols case in state court. The earlier federal charges included witness tampering. The trial threatened to undercut reform after Doge identified systematic misconduct in the MPD. The Trump admin has since paused oversight. You know, even with cameras, you know, the justice rarely sticks anymore. Here we have Nashville leak scandal. Retired Lieutenant Gary Davidson was arrested, accused of stealing files, including a shooter's journal from the Covenant school case. He claimed whistleblower status, alleging that internal suppression of misconduct. You know, insider knowledge often costs you your freedom and your loyalty. It says abandoned federal tracking. The Doge shut down the federal misconduct database that tracked thousands of cases. Anonymous officials say it happened very quietly. No replacement. See, when those records vanish, people, the cover-ups get easier for them. And we got Doge placed a $10 million bounty on El Chapo's son's leader of Los Chapitos over fentanyl trafficking. It says 2 cartel leaders indicted on narco-terror charges in the U.S., marking a shift in how cartels are fought. It says U.S. Treasury sanctioned CJNG linked money laundering and propane and oil theft networks. It says cartels are being treated more like terrorist organizations. And finally, it's about fucking time. You know, the legal pressure is mounting. You know, the battlefield is shifting, people, if you haven't fucking noticed. But domestic cover-ups still undermine the war. You know, the breach of trust from federal agents to officers on the street. You know, misconduct is mainstream. And the lack of accountability with the body cams, databases, even tapes, you know, controls don't bring transparency. And that cartel pressure with the foreign threats are getting more and more tools to use. But that spotlight isn't lighting up internal corruption. And your mission, my friends, is always document, amplify, and question. This intel isn't for the quiet. You know, this is live intelligence, not opinion. Use it, share it, and watch the fallout. Once again, this is our intel briefing. All right, before we continue, let's go ahead and get into this week's tactical breakdown. And today we're going to go ahead and talk about the top 5 automatic weapons of 2025. Built for war, not display, people. And this is where we don't talk theory, we talk tools of war. And in 2025, the firepower's evolved. And some weapons got smarter, some got lighter, and some got fucking meaner. But only 5 made Panzer's cut. And these are the top 5 automatic weapons of 2025. Not the prettiest, not the most hyped, the most lethal, reliable, and street relevant. So let's go ahead and lock in. Coming in at number 5, we have the B&T APC-9 Pro K Gen 2. And Switzerland doesn't fuck around when it comes to engineering. And the Brugger and Tomet APC-9 Pro K proves that. It's compact, ambidextrous, and suppressor ready. You know, this 9mm submachine gun runs smoother than a fucking politician's lie and hits harder than a courtroom lake. So you've got full auto capability with soft recoil and exceptional urban performance. A close quarters dominator, whether you're clearing a hallway or black bagging a human trafficker. And now the Gen 2 upgrades improve the trigger response and the magazine compatibility. So it's a tactical grade, discreet, no frills, all frings. Make sure to check it out. That is the B&T APC-9 Pro K Gen 2. Up at number 4, we have the FN E-Volleys 5.56 7.62 variants. Like I said, this is the new generation of belt-fed fury, my friends. The FN Evolies might look light, but it's feeding 200-round drums of chaos with barely a whimper. We're talking machine gun fire at rifle weight. Its polymer and alloy blend keeps it mobile. Side-loading belt box makes reload slick. It's full auto suppression in a platform built for mobility. Whether it's the 5.56 or the 7.62 variant, the Volleys is perfect for ambush countermeasures or full-spectrum overwatch. It's modern battlefield fire superiority in your hands. And up 3, we have the SIG MCX Spear XM7. And you know this one was coming. You know, the SIG MCX Spear, also known as the XM7, is the U.S. Army's next-gen rifle, and for good fucking reason. It basically fires the 6.851mm hybrid cartridge, while punches harder than a 7.62 and flies flatter than a 5.56. And this isn't your granddad's M4, my friends. This is adaptive warfare steel. It's full auto capability, modular, suppressor ready, and mission flexible, with barrel swaps, caliber conversions, and quick detach of everything. Basically, in Panzer terms, it's like strapping a war drum to a laser pointer. Brutal and efficient, battlefield dominant. Number 2, we have the CZ Bren 2BR, full auto 7.62 NATO. Let's talk Eastern European muscle, my friends. You know, the CZ Bren 2BR chambered in a 7.62 NATO is a full auto fucking monster with a backbone. It eats recoil like it's breakfast. It runs filthy, runs hard. It's not delicate. It's deliberate. Light enough to move, heavy enough to hammer, and it's perfect for counterinsurgencies, armored response, or long-range suppression. You don't fire the Bren 2, you fucking unleash it. It's been seen in Eastern Spec Ops, cartel raids, and private military hands, and when it roars, the fucking enemy scatters. It's fucking old school caliber, new school frame, and all kill. And number 1 on this list is the KAC LAMG. And now we hit the top. You know, the crown for 2025's number one automatic weapon goes to the KAC LAMG, Knight's Armament Light Assault Machine Gun. And this belt-fed demon has changed the fucking game. And why, you might ask? Because it uses a constant recoil system, meaning it stays on target, even on full rip. And the 5.56 NATO sub 10-pound weight, you know, it's insanely controllable. It's the closest thing to a laser you can get without leaving Earth. Law enforcement tactical terms are picking it up. Deniable units across the world are using it for covert suppression with speed. And in skilled hands, it's not a machine gun. It's a fucking storm. And once again, that's the top 25 automatic weapons. And whether you're a lawful gun owner training for the worst or a frontline officer with your eyes on every corner, you know, these aren't just weapons. They're tools of liberation. But remember this, you know, a weapon's only as deadly as the will behind it. So train hard, know your fucking gear, and never, ever aim at something you're not willing to destroy. Once again, this is Panzer Unleashed Tactical Breakdown. Let's go ahead and get back into the main op. Here's the shift right here. We're not here to cry. We're not here to fucking beg the system to come fucking change this. We're here to outflank you motherfuckers. To organize. And to operationalize. Citizen soldiers, iron voice operatives, digital crusaders, and real world patriots. You're the resistance now. Here's what to do, my friends, as I say on every show. Make sure to document everything. Evidence is your fucking armor. Never rely on just one platform or one contact or one outlet. Broadcast, people. The moment you discover truth, release it. Fast, loud, and wide. You have to build the networks and link with others and share the intel. You know, you have to watch each other's six out there. Go public early. You know, it's harder to kill a story once it's viral. And, you know, make sure to train out there, you know, physically, mentally, and tactically. Become a hardened target, my friends. You know, encrypt your data, your files, your communication, and expose the web. You know, it's never one person. It's a chain. Break the fucking links. This is warfare, my friends, and you are the insurgent. And you have to make peace with this now. You know, if you speak, they will retaliate. And if you shine a light, they'll try to snuff it out. But the one thing more dangerous than being a whistleblower is being the one who stays silent. Because the ones who stay silent out there, they become part of the system. Whether they're meant to or not. They let that machine keep running, and that blood ends up on their hands too. So if they come for you, stand firm, baby. You know, if they smear you, then speak louder. And if they try to isolate you, build your own tribe. And you will lose things, trust me. But you're going to gain something more powerful. A conscience that sleeps at night. And a soul that's not for fucking sale. And a legacy that's going to echo long after these fucking cowards fall. And like I said, my friends, you've just heard that. That's the truth. This isn't for clicks. This isn't for fucking likes and fame like some other fake organizations and people out there do. This is for survival. Yours, mine, ours. And the war on whistleblowers isn't just a battle for truth, my friends. It's a fucking war for the soul of this country. So you remember this. When the system hunts truth tellers, You don't run. You don't fucking hide. You link up, you fight smart, and you never go silent. They declared war on the truth, and now the truth fights fucking back. This has been Panzer Unleashed, my friends, and you have to stay armed, stay lethal, and stay loud. Until next time, this is Scott Panzer Paulson out.